So Kelly Lee is a strategist from Sussex, Australasia, who has developed an in-depth and strategic understanding of the cultural and commercial forces driving the changes we are now seeing in the cross-border industry. Her talk will take a deeper look into the socio-cultural forces shaping Chinese parents' decisions and the implications for your business. And then we have our second speaker, Pooja Porwal, who is currently leading the Asia-Pacific region for early life nutrition at DSM. Pooja brings a wealth of experience from growing brands and generating consumer insights in the kids' nutrition space for over 10 years in several big nutrition companies. So her talk will present results from a recent DSM consumer insights study within the kids space. So first up, I'd like to introduce Kelly Lee.
Hi, good morning. My name is Kelly. Thanks for the introduction. I'm from Sussex, Australasia, and we are a media branding agency that specializes in, one of our specializations is cross-border in China. Can I see a show of hands? How many of you are thinking of China or already in the China market? So a lot of you. So as Leah just said, we're here to inspire your thoughts for potential development for business. So we're here to share some consumer insights and cultural insights of China. Hopefully that will be of interest to you. And so we are a branding and marketing agency, and marketing's key function is to change or drive consumers' behavior. And it's very hard or even impossible to change consumers' behavior when you don't know what they are. And Chinese consumers' behavior are very different from consumer behaviors from the West region as well. Just yesterday we were in a meeting, for example, just a short anecdote, we were talking to you about a baby brand who was thinking of entering China, and we were talking about a cultural trend. We said, do you know this concept called young fresh meat? And our Australian colleagues were extremely surprised, and what does that mean? We're like, in China now, there is this trend calling young celebrities, like especially male celebrities, young fresh meat. And they were all very shocked, and like, why would you do that? Like, it was very condescending, it's a very insulting way to describe a group of people. I was like, yeah, and then we dived deeper into what that is, and that surely would change how, not necessarily their brand right now, but how they understand the culture and how they connect their brands with their consumers in the medium long term. Okay, so let's, without further ado, dive into the topic for today. Okay. So since we're talking about, so how many of you are familiar with Chinese culture? Because obviously we'll dive into some aspects of that. Some of you? Okay, great. So for those of you who know Chinese culture, or maybe have heard a little bit of Chinese culture, is we are a very collective culture. So it's a very family-oriented culture. So it used to be that this is a picture of family portrait from a few generations ago, not very long ago, less than 100 years ago, let's say, of generations of Chinese families, 4 generations under one roof, or that's the hope and dream, that you've achieved success in life if you have, your kids and grandkids and great-grandkids together. So it's a family-oriented culture, right? But because of historical and economic reasons, in a very short period of time, we've transitioned from this to this. So this is a term, we have a term called 4+2+1 family. Have you guys heard of this concept? So that literally means 4 sets of grandparents, 2 sets of parents, and the baby of the family, which is the jewel of the crown, because there's 6 adults, grown-ups, looking after this one baby. So this one baby really is the center of the family, normally no siblings. In 2015, the policy of one-child policy was relaxed, but for 30 years, 35 years prior to that, you're only allowed to have 1 child in the whole family. So, this one baby is really everyone's center of attention. And what's the implication of that? Let's think about, in 2018, if you watch Chinese TV series or drama, you might have heard of this TV show called A Little Reunion. So the story is really a whole TV series centered around 3 families living in one building with school kids going to university, taking what's the equivalent of HSC to enter universities. And the whole story centers around the competition and what's transpired from this one exam. China is such a highly competitive society. When the kids are born, you have to think of where they're going to university. universities, and that will set the tone or direction of their lives. It's hard for me to imagine, for example, here or in other European countries, EastEnders or what's up? I have the name of the show on the tip of my tongue. Home and Away, you know, a whole TV series centered around HSC as a theme. It's just not possible. It's not the same kind of social structure. So the social competition in that society is really great. So that parents have to prepare their kids for all sets of challenges. They see themselves as the guardian to provide kids with great support from a nutritional perspective, definitely, from giving them brain power, helping them study, give them the best opportunities possible. And this is a quote from the Guardian, I think a few years ago, saying, "Is Chinese Gaokao, which is the name of the equivalent of HSC in this situation, the world's toughest school exam." Because every year, about 95 million Chinese kids will have to graduate high school and go through this HSC system, trying to go into a few of top universities in China. Let's say there are 25 good universities and there are 95 million of them trying to get into the schools. So what's the implication of that? The implication is you have a lot of these families, all of them are trying their best to give their kids the best future, right? But at the same time, because the cost of raising children is so high, actually, increasingly, even though Chinese families can now have 2 kids, a lot of them are choosing to only have 1. So this is a survey in 2018 or 19, I think 85% of the 9,000 mothers surveyed actually said they couldn't afford to have a second child because of the cost of raising children. However, what the evidence we see as I wouldn't say a contradiction, but you would think that if birth rate is dropping or will drop in the future, parents don't want to have so many children, how does that impact the nutrition market? The evidence we see, though, is quite different. This is a mother who is a KOL, so a key opinion leader. Some of you might have heard of the terms. So she's actually based in Australia, and she surveyed 45,000 of her followers, asking them how much money do you spend on your kids' nutrition product per month. And the result she got was between 400 to 2,000. This is RD, so that translates into $80 to $400 a month. And that's just from her follower base. It's quite a large base, though. And she was quite surprised by the amount people are spending on their kids' nutritional products for their kids alone. And we can see that in China, the evidence also support that. From 2013 to 2016, the online sales of kids' nutritional products actually have seen a steady increase. And this is despite fluctuations in birth rate. So that's quite steady. And not only that, if you look at how kids' nutritional products as a category compare to, say, formula or dairy product overall for kids, you have seen an increase, even though there's drops. And this is data from CBN data, consumer big data from 2016 to 18 on Tmall's infant and toddler food sales by category. You can see an increase of nutritional products actually going up at the expense of some other categories. And that's pretty much one of the, as a percentage and sales increase-wise, one of the largest. So even though we know kids are, the birth rate may fluctuate in the future, but kids actually will still get a large share of their parents' income because they don't have one child, which is this key core of the family structure. Parents will actually spend more money on the kids' development, and that's also why we are seeing a trend of going premium. So in the kids' nutritional space as well, according to this study by Nielsen, 12 months prior to February 2019, is the products that are priced higher, so premium, almost double the price of the average price, has gone up by 46%. But the products that are average price or even below average have seen either the growth flat or they have dropped. So there's a trend of going premium, going better and more different formulations that will increase different formulation that's different from before that can better satisfy their children's needs. So we know that the kid is the center of the family, and they will probably receive better and better products, but what kind of products are in the parents' shopping cart? There are obviously a lot of different factors affecting that. We don't have a crystal ball to say exactly what's going to be, but we have a good guess as to what they could be, and we're going to share a few of them here today. So if they do come true in the next few years, please quote me on this presentation. First category, we think their children's lifestyle. So I would guess most of you, how many of you go to school in, say, Asia, China specifically? Some of you, okay. So you would know that this pressure of study in China versus, say, here is a completely different system. And the amount of hours kids are putting into study, I think the survey says, and I remember this as I can vouch for that, is you study for 11, 12 hours a day. So you spend 11, 12 hours a day in school, and then you have to come home and do your homework. That's quite typical for a Chinese child. So thinking about their lifestyle, if you put yourself in the shoes of those kids and their parents, what sort of product or what sort of need they will have versus a child here would be very different, wouldn't it? Let's look at a few of them. So firstly is a lot of them short-sighted. I remember when I was in school, I think 95% of the kids in your class would wear glasses. And that's pretty accurate, actually. So this is a study by the World Health Organization. Their data is China's school kids actually have the highest percentage of myopia, short-sightedness, globally. So that's kids school age up until 17, I think. Second thing is lack of sleep. Less than 20% of school kids sleep longer than 8 hours a day, which is recommended. And because if they have to go to school at 7 and come home at 6 and then study until 12, do their homework, it's very hard for them to get enough sleep. So how does that impact their nutritional needs? Third is digestive health. This is related to study pressure and their lifestyle, but also I think in recent years, Chinese people are made aware of a concept which is lactose intolerance. When I was a kid, I don't think we just drank milk and no one really talked about, oh, you suffer from this condition. But this condition was invented, or this condition is introduced to Chinese parents. So a lot of Chinese parents are aware of it, and when they buy products for their kids, they're taking notice of that. And that partly also explains products like probiotics and the rise of these sort of products in China, is it suddenly became a condition. Academic pressure, I mentioned they study for more than 11 hours a day. They're very busy. And I mentioned the Gaokao, or the school entrance exam, is very key for their future development or their lives. It's a key milestone in their lives. So omega-3, a lot of product to boost their brain power has always been very popular in China. I think since 80s and 90s, when Western brands came into China and started promoting these category products, these products have always been buzzword. Almost every product you see for kids on the market will have this buzzword in there because of their need for academic achievement, so to speak. So why is this significant? Because if you look at the top selling products, nutritional products that for kids, for toddlers and kids, you see a high correlation between their lifestyle and actually what parents are buying. So I mentioned digestive health, immunity, brain, vision, which are the top categories. The one outlier, well, I wouldn't say outlier, but I didn't mention is bones and joints. So height is a key concern for a lot of Asian parents. And also I think because we're talking about Western nutritional products, the other consideration is there is not a viable alternative in Chinese medicine, for example, to fulfill that need. So that also explains vitamin D and calcium. These products are also top sellers. But overall, I think the other lifestyle factors definitely have a positive correlation with what they buy. So now we know that their lifestyle will impact what they buy. What are they going to buy in the future, or how is their lifestyle changing? I think a few things. New lifestyle. So think of the parents now who are mostly millennials, or post-80s or post-90s in the Chinese lingo, post-80s, post-90s born Chinese parents. they actually grew up with more wealth than their parents did. And as a result, they actually experienced greater variety of activities outside of just their parents probably didn't have the luxury of skiing or horse riding or any of these things. But they grew up with more options, and their kids will definitely grow up with even more options. And because of the lifestyle changes, they may start to want to have more nutritional products servicing those needs. Just a thought starter, for example, I saw some brands offering like kids protein powders, etc. So these lifestyle changes in the future will definitely drive what they need in their pantry, in the portfolio of what they buy for their kids. So the key is to understand the behavior. We don't have time to go into all the details now, but it's worth looking into what's happening with their lifestyle. Secondly, I think the busier schedule. I mentioned the study pressure, but also things like they don't eat breakfast. I think like 89% of the school kids will skip breakfast. So what's a convenient packaging, something on healthy food on the go, nutritional food on the go, how is that going to help them? Because if the kids don't eat breakfast, their parents will worry and they will want to find an alternative solution than sitting down having hot meal every morning at home. Childhood obesity is becoming an issue for first, second tier cities in China. Probably not so much in the lower tier cities, but in the first, second, third tier cities. But those are also your majority of your customers on cross-border. So they would be coming from those cities. And childhood obesity could potentially be another area to look at. Emotional management is interesting because we have seen a worrying trend of some kids and adolescents actually committing suicide or suffering from depression, which was unheard of in China, I think 10, 20 years ago. You don't ever hear about kids committing suicide because of depression or this sort of mental conditions. And they're not necessarily clinically depressed, but because of the pressure they face at school and at home, and just increasing a lot of social problems that can occur with economic development in the country. So emotion management will become another category, I think, in the future that's big for Chinese parents to look at for their kids to they can benefit from that category of products. The second thing is social media. I think social media is global. So everyone, all parents everywhere actually enjoy using social media or connecting on social media. But what's different about China is there are other social conditions that's unique to the Chinese consumer. For example, China doesn't really have a GP system in most of the cities. So these would be pictures of parents lining up at the children's hospital for their kids. It's very overcrowded hospital system, and because you don't have GPs, there's really not a very mature system of tracking your children's health consistently on a health record, for example. And there's a lack of trust in some of the cities as well because of, there are allegations of bribery and those sort of things. And also they're just really hard to get into. It's very hard to even get into the doors of these hospitals to get a consultation with a specialist sometimes because they're just so in demand. At the same time, but anyway, what this slide is saying is, with the development of social media, I think everyone here have heard of this WebMD, people going online, search for conditions and things like that. And this really is amplified in China through social media. There are almost hundreds, but tens of parenting apps, which are acting as the home doctor, so to speak, for Chinese parents. And I give you some examples here, but there are actually more, and they're developing quite quickly. And the number of users of these apps in China by March 2018 have reached 82 million users, unique users. And it's probably higher now than last year. And 90%, this is an extensive survey of parents saying, how did you use these apps? What do you use them for? And 90% of them saying they're seeking parenting advice from the apps as a major source of information, interacting daily with these apps. And more importantly, I think more interestingly for today's purpose, is 70%, 73% actually often use parenting apps to get information on nutrition. So they would get general parenting advice, knowledge, information, but also nutrition information. And the content may come in a variety of directions like food, nutritional recipes, it could be supplements, it could be specific product information, but it's overall how to fortify my children's health nutrition, with cooking, with different sources, because food as a nurturing agent for Chinese culture goes a long way back. We think food as a nurturing source of nutrition has always been there, and now it's just complemented by other nutritional products. Against the backdrop of that, a lot of KOLs, so key opinion leaders, you have heard of key opinion leaders? Yeah? A lot of KOLs have emerged, and these are some of the examples here, but there are more. Actually, anyone is free to post and share information online for nutrition or any parenting information, but these are some of the really trending KOLs in this space. Dr. Ding Xiang, Nicole Mama, we have worked with her. She has come to ANZ before. And Dr. Cui Yutao is also another really renowned pediatrician in this space. So if you look at the numbers they're achieving, 20 million fans, 12 million fans, 8 million fans, they all have their own suite of assets like apps, online information, podcasts, so on and so forth, to share parenting information. And they're really seen as the credible alternative to the hospital system. And because parents can access this information so easily, they're interacting them almost as friends on a daily basis instead of going to, hospitals or GPs. Like there's no GPs really. So these people are becoming the voice in the parenting space, and their advice is probably more trusted than a doctor, for example. But there's also another trend, let's say counter-trend to this, which is because the information online is not verified and anyone can really put in anything they want. So there are some parents who are getting suspicious of some of the KOLs because there are rumors of them selling fake products, or they're not verifying their source of information. So we can also see the other trend, which is what about in the future? People are getting advice on the advice. So these are a screenshot of a KOL, again, answering questions from her readers saying, I've read that kids don't need nutritional products, is that true, is that correct? And then she will go in there and debunk the myth or try to find out what the truth is. But there are a lot of forces in the market that are interacting with each other, and they're all trying to sort of get their consumers' attention, and whatever they say can become the leading force to reshape, what they think is worth purchasing, let's say. So what does the future look like? Again, implications for you guys going to China. I think even though these things will change, and the KOLs will change, and there might be different trends in terms of what they promote, but something will hold true. I think as long as there is this category exists for Chinese parents, these things will hold true for them. I think the first change is, as the generations go on, we're actually seeing a trend of people not following the brands anymore. So post-80s parents would look at the brands because they grew up with this trend of Western branding, brands coming to China. They would actually buy into the brand and trusting in the brand because it has a good brand name. But increasingly, the post-90s parents were seeing a trend of going to, say, Chinese brands or domestic brands because they're becoming more savvy, and they're not trusting a brand just because it has a foreign label. They're looking at what's in the product. And out of those things, two really stand out. One is accreditation of the product. Is it safe? Is it accredited by some organization that says it's good for my kids? It's still, and always will be, I think, at the top of the chart. So having some sort of accreditation or queue of trust will be quite important. Secondly is a nutritional formulation is also coming up on top. These are the two top factors. So like I said before, lifestyle changes. If you can come up with a formulation that's something in addition to what they already have, something more that better services their children's lifestyle, that will also be a key consideration for the parents. What's the formulation? Is it, is it better for my kids in the future? Third thing is they're looking at, we're seeing a rise of people taking notice of the nutritional facts, reading the labels, understanding exactly what's going in the products. I think it's 2019, 33% compared to 24 in 2017. Probably will keep rising as well. Okay, I have 2 minutes, we'll be quick. Entertainmentization is not a word, but it's a word I've made up myself. I hope it's pretty self-evident what it means. But I'll speak quite quickly top line about what this entails. So Chinese parents, as parents everywhere, are busy. They have less than an hour to entertain themselves and have entertainment apart from looking after their kids every day. But I think that's pretty universal, right? But what's very unique about China's landscape for Mother Baby is there is the trend of entertainmentizing knowledge, information, wellness information. And because this is a doctor I talked about before, so he has a huge following online, and he knows parents are really busy, so in order to engage them, instead of giving them just facts or nutrition information, let's stage this as a talk show, for example. Let's stage this as a comedy show so that people are entertained as well as getting information. And there's also the same trend for, I don't know if you have seen any of these shows. For example, I think starting a few years ago, the show called Where Are You Going, Dad? There is shows focused on mom as well. So basically reality shows or variety shows that combines parenting information with entertainment, with celebrity. And they're also talking about products, obviously, because there will be sponsors, but also people genuinely want to know what products are good for my kids. So there's a whole lot of shows in China springing up here, left, right, and center, talking about parenting, targeting at these post-80s and 90s parents who are really into entertainment, but have no time for entertainment, but also need parenting information. So we can see that people are asked, why do you like parenting shows? Many of them say knowledge, but also product information. So 75% of parents watch parenting shows, they want to learn about new products. And not only that, they actually trust the information they're getting from these shows. This is a TV variety show, and 97% of parents who watch the show say they like the show and they'll recommend the show to other parents, and 50% say they have purchased a product as a result of watching the show. So I've run out of time. I only have 2 more slides. Should I go on or? Yeah, okay. Last one is the shortest one, luckily. The power of a good story. So everything you've seen so far is on trends and parents and the culture, future, what possibly can happen. But to tie that all together is sometimes a good story you can tell on your product. Once you've got the ingredients right, you've got the formulation, you've got accreditation. The other thing I want to talk about is the how do you create the story with Chinese consumers. I want to start just by saying, so China is we have a long history of Chinese medicine and nurturing through food and natural sources. Those are the really big theme for Chinese well-being for this space. But in the 80s and early 90s, a lot of brands came to China and started promoting nutritional products. And Chinese parents born like 50 years before that would never heard of omega-3, DHA, or any of these things. But in the space of 10 years, a lot of products coming onto the market have these formulations. Why? Because once a new concept is introduced, and people start to get familiarize themselves with these concepts, they start to really shift their point of view of what nutrition is. And so in addition to the Chinese medicine that they're used to having, these things became a powerful complement to their wellness regimen. So I just want to give 2 examples, and then that will be the end of the talk. Is ask any Chinese person, they will know some of this concept. First is sub-health. So are you sub-health? So you're not really sick, but you're not really well. Are you sometimes anxious or stressed? I mean, who isn't? But the concept of sub-health really encapsulates that idea of I need something. And the second thing is win at the starting line. This is almost like in Chinese dictionary. Don't let your kids lose the starting line. Make sure they win the starting line. It's such a popular concept in Chinese language. But these 2 concepts were both actually advertising language used by 2 nutritional products. So the one on the left is actually created by a multivitamin brand, and the one on the right is created by, I think it's calcium or iron supplements in the 90s. So the point is, people are, if you have a good story to tell them, to capture the essence of your product, relate to their lifestyle, it actually can work their ways into their lingo. And that's going to affect how they think and how they behave, and the product they're going to like and buy. And they're quite receptive of this sort of information. Just make sure it is in line with their lifestyle changes. And you can find out more about what those are from even reality shows or talking to your Chinese friends or an agency or whoever has those research